pilot and a Canadian astronaut.
We are going back to the moon! Back to the moon!
4 stage engine start.
Artemis II.
We are ready.
We are going to the moon for all humanity. We are Artemis.
Canada's Jeremy Hansen will be part of a pioneering mission. It's called Artemis II, and it aims to accomplish a constellation of firsts. If all goes to plan, Hansen and 3 other astronauts will blast off next year, and it will be the first lunar mission for a NASA crew in more than 50 years. Hansen will be the first Canadian ever to go to the moon, and the mission will take him and his fellow astronauts past the far side and beyond the lunar orbit, potentially going as deep as 370,000 kilometers into space before slingshotting back. That would be a first, too. No humans have ever been that far away from our planet. And that leaves, before he leaves to make all of this history, Jeremy Hansen is making one last stop in Canada before the mission scheduled for early next year. Joining us in studio, and we are so thankful for that. Jeremy Hansen, thank you so much for joining us in studio this morning.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
Goosebumps. Do you get goosebumps when you watch that video, the way it's been put together with the dramatic music, and to see that you are just a matter of months going to the moon?
Yeah, mixed emotions. The parts with me, maybe not so much, but when the rocket ignites, every time I watch that rocket launch, that was the Artemis I launch. It didn't have any people on it. Artemis II will be the first time we put humans on this vehicle. No one really knows what it's going to feel like to ride this rocket. When I look at that, it does give me goosebumps.
We went through that list of firsts, but a big first for you because it's the first time you'll be in space. Yeah. How do you mentally prepare yourself for something of that magnitude?
Just a lot of training, but talking to people. So luckily I'm flying with three crewmates, Reed, Victor, and Christina. They all have been to space. They all spent the full duration on the International Space Station. So they have a lot of experience I can draw from. That's super helpful. So as we're going through training, we talk a lot about their experiences with microgravity and experiencing that. So that's pretty helpful. But then, you know, the reality is we're just so busy as well. Like this mission, it's a test flight. As soon as we get to space, we have to check out a lot of systems because we don't know about the life support systems or the manual controls. And we have to go through a series of checks and make sure we're happy with this vehicle, it's performing as expected, and then make decisions along the way. Do we keep going or do we try to get home quickly?
And how long before the actual launch would those tests have to be completed?
Well, we'll be training right up till the end. It's I was talking to my daughter the other day who's coming up in exam time, and I'm like, you know, it kind of feels like that because you know you're just going to keep using every minute you have until the day of launch. But, you know, just to give you some ideas, because it's the first time a lot of these systems are coming to their final conclusion of being put together, we just dropped the last software load for our flight. So now we got to go back and redo a lot of testing. We're familiar with all this stuff, but we have to go back and double check and make sure that nothing has changed that will negatively impact us.
Well, let's talk about the mission because you are the only Canadian on this crew. The others are American. And we talked a little bit about how it's going to slingshot through space to take you to the far side of the moon. I know people call it the dark side. That's a misnomer. It's actually quite bright from what I understand. But let's look at this graphic here because walk us through what your journey will be like to get to the moon.
So like I talked about, as soon as we get to space, we want to check out the capsule. So we have one lap around the Earth. That's about 90 minutes. Then we can come home then if we need to. And then we do this longer loop that you see. That takes a day. And there's a lot of checks in that day. But then if everything is good, and we expect it will be, when we get back to about 100 nautical miles from Earth, so this one goes out to 40,000 nautical miles, and we come back to 100. We'll accelerate to 39 times the speed of sound and fly out to the moon, use the moon's gravity to turn us around and come back to Earth. And it's kind of neat. You kind of think of it like throwing a ball up in the air, because there's gravity out at the moon. Earth's gravity is holding the moon in that orbit. So you got to kind of think of it like throwing a ball as fast as you need to get it all the way to the moon. That's us, 39 times the speed of sound. And then all the way, Earth is trying to pull us back. And we slow down as we get to the moon, turn around, and come back. And at 39 times the speed of sound when we get home and hit the Earth's atmosphere, land in the Pacific.
What do you think will be going through your mind once you get back into the Pacific there, once that mission is complete?
It's a tiny little capsule, 4 people, 10 days. We'll probably be like, I'm ready to get out.
Let's talk about the mission, though, because that's when you'll be eager to stay in and complete everything you need to do there. What is the goal of the Artemis mission?
Well, you got to kind of think longer term. So the long-term vision of Artemis is to send humans to Mars. And along the way, we have new milestones that we want to accomplish. And so Artemis II tests this capsule that can take humans into deep space for the first time in over 50 years. Artemis III will have a lunar lander. They'll be testing that and taking it down to the lunar surface. And then we're building a space station around the moon, the Gateway. We're looking at building bases or like a lunar station on the surface so we can do more science there. And those lessons are what we expect to use to allow us to go and have a durable presence on Mars.
Okay, the far side of the moon. In other words, not the man on the moon's face, behind, the part we never see, which I've learned a lot about tidal locking, because my question was, why don't we ever see that? For those who might be wondering what the far side of the moon is, how is it different from what we see every night?
I've been looking at it a lot in my training. You know, it's similar, but it is different from a geological point of view. But when you know, if I just flip the moon around, you'd be like, that doesn't look quite right. But it's very similar. It's the same types of rocks in general. But what you have to realize is just like the Earth, half of it is always lit. And what we're hoping is our launch window will allow us to see the far side. So a perfect solution would be all of you here on Earth have a new moon, and we'll have a full moon when we get to the far side. And that's because we would like human eyes to look in some specific places that the geologists are interested in, because human eyes have never seen them. Because in Apollo, they needed light on the near side, because that's where they were landing. And so they always launched when we had sort of a full moon on our side. So that's what we're hoping for.
So how is it different then from what we're seeing from satellites? Are you confident then that you can really see something that other technologies have not been able to detect?
No, I mean, we're definitely not confident. So we have these amazing satellites. We have awesome imagery. I've been looking at it, like I said, lots in my training. But we will have a different perspective. So a satellite always looks in like the perpendicular direction. It never kind of glances off and looks across the moon while it's over here. And it has different frequencies that it's looking in. Every instrument has its set of, just like our eyes have a set of frequencies, every instrument does. And so what the geologists are hoping, they've identified targets for us. They're like, these are kind of different areas, but we're wondering if there's any difference between the different. And if your eyes can look there, and you can do it as you go all the way around the moon and keep looking, if you could pick something up, that would help us decide where are we going next with the rovers, where do we want to send humans eventually.
Okay, we want to bring our viewers in because we've been asking throughout this week for our viewers to send in video messages, email us messages, and they're also tuning in on TikTok and YouTube. We've got Ask Jeremy at CBC.ca, so if you've got something, send us in. I want to start with this video that was sent in to us. This is a video from Bruce. Let's have a listen to what his question is for you.
What science that he might be bringing from Canada onto this mission? That'd be great to know what our contribution is to this space exploration.
So the biggest Canadian science experiment on the mission is this body right here. And so, of course, we're doing a lot of data collection on the four of us before we launch. And we take some samples during the mission, but not much, unfortunately, and then a lot of testing when we get back. But the reason we're a bit limited is because we just have the capsule. We don't have much extra volume. We don't have much extra space. Once we start having a lunar lander and we can launch more mass and we have the lunar station, we'll be able to do a lot more science out there. But we do have some interesting experiments. One I'll tell you about is they have these chips, and so they've been collecting cells from us, and they're going to culture our cells, twin cells of our bodies, the four of us, and then they fly us also on these chips. And then when we get back, they compare, are the results on the chips the same as the results on the actual human?
Wow.
And if they are the same, and they're hoping they will be, then they can fly thousands of people to space on these chips and collect more data so we can really start to understand the impacts of things like radiation in deep space, because it is very different than going to the space station.
Oh, how will that be then? What other changes are you expecting to see? Because you will be going the farthest from Earth that anyone has ever traveled.
The differences aren't that significant from how far you go. I mean, we won't really be able to tell. We'll be in microgravity, so we'll have all those nominal effects we do see on the space station, starting to have some bone loss and muscle degradation. But but radiation is the biggest delta for us, but it is a short mission. So it's not a big concern, but they are excited to collect some data and get a better sense. Obviously, Apollo, we learned a lot, but science instrumentation has changed a lot in these years, and so we'll be able to collect better data.
It is hard for us to wrap our heads around what you're about to embark on. You've been training, you've been preparing for this. How is it for you and your family, though? When you're having these discussions, is there talk of fear, anxiety, just there is so much unknown here?
We've definitely had to have that conversation a few times as a family because there's just a reality to it. You know, I'm very optimistic, and I truly feel like the most likely outcome is we will be okay. We've been working really hard. We have an amazing team. We're very open and honest about the risks. We have backup plans for backup plans. We have redundancy. So I'm very optimistic that we will be fine when we hit the Pacific Ocean. But we also have to be realistic. We have accepted a lot of risks on all these different systems, and things can happen and they can stack, and you don't necessarily come home from a trip like this. It is 400,000 kilometers out to the moon. It's a long way to go. And once you leave Earth at 39 times the speed of sound, you are going somewhere. You don't just get to turn around and come home. You can't like pull over to the side of the road if you got a problem. You got what you got, and you have to do what you can with it.
We are just getting started this morning with you. There are so many questions we have for you and so many our viewers have for you, and there is still time to send in your questions, your emails at ask@cbc.ca. So send them to us, and if you're watching on TikTok or YouTube, throw your questions in the comments and we'll ask Jeremy this morning. Stay with us here on CBC Morning Live. And we're back with Jeremy Hansen answering your questions, and you still can email them at ask@cbc.ca. And if you're watching on TikTok or YouTube, just throw your questions in the comments and we will ask Jeremy himself here sitting with us this morning. Okay, I want to start with one of the questions that was sent in to us from Stephanie Galland. She actually emailed us. This is her question. What is the normal sleep-wake schedule in space, and how and where do they sleep in a weightless environment?
Ideally, we just follow a regular schedule. So we'll get about an 8-hour rest period, ideally, if everything's going well with the vehicle each night. But kind of interesting, the first day is just so busy. There's so many tests, and there's so many points when you're in trajectory going around the Earth, and you got to try and line up to hit the moon. We have to be right on time with the burns, and so in the first 36 hours, we pretty much go straight through with just a couple of nap periods in there. So we'll get maybe like 6 hours of sleep during that first 36 hours, and we just sleep. The capsule is kind of like a camper van. Just imagine it being in a camper van for 10 days, but you can't get out. But you're floating, so you can make better use of the space. And our sleeping bags, we just tie them off to a corner in the capsule, almost like a hammock floating in space. And the four of us would just kind of be there, spread out and napping.
It's interesting because we don't think about the night and the day in space. For you, it will be mostly bright, right?
Yes, we'll almost all the time be in direct sunlight. When we're behind the Earth, for example, we'll probably be in shadow, maybe a little bit on one side of the moon. But other than that, we'll be in sunlight. So we have window covers, and we just look at the time on our watches and decide when to go to bed.
Okay. Oh, boy. Okay, let's talk about another email that's been sent to us for you. Bev Halashak emailed saying, how are dental emergencies handled during space flight? Having worked for nearly 40 years in the field, I've seen issues arise unexpectedly in spite of regular and thorough assessments. What's the plan for that?
Yeah, you can imagine people have thought of that.
Space root canal.
All of us have gone and had some emergency dental training, and we have some very rudimentary tools, but where we can sort of cap off a broken tooth and make it last for a few days. So we get a field promotion to dentist in space, and we can call mission control and say, hey, can we get some advice on this? But we have a tool. We have a few tools to deal with it. Also for emergency medicine, we spent a week in an ER just learning the ropes of emergency medicine, because it is just us. It's just the four of us.
Is there anything else you've been trained to do in the wake of an emergency?
Well,
other than specific to the actual...
intubations, for example.
Wow.
Catheterization, just some of those tools. Chest tubes, things that we hope to never use.
And we hope that you don't as well. Let's go to TikTok. Smiley on TikTok has written in a question saying, why are we going to the moon?
Well, there's probably, hundreds of reasons to go back. From a scientific point of view, people refer to the moon as the Rosetta Stone of the solar system. I think what I really love to focus on and kind of what I live every day is just the benefits of setting big goals that bring a huge team together and the ripple effects of what they come up with. And so Apollo had that effect where it brought people together. They were creating these amazing solutions. But in Artemis, it's a global collaboration. We're expanding the collaboration to go back to the moon. And it just seems to bring out the best in humanity. And we're creating technologies that we end up using to help us live better lives even on the planet. So for example, as you go to the moon, if you want to stay, and eventually Mars, it becomes a basic needs problem from a logistics point of view: water, food, healthcare, remote healthcare. Well, these are all, for Canada, a country like Canada, these are all issues we want to work on anyway. And so we have the opportunity to solve these issues with the technologies of today, share them with our international partnership, benefit from them here on Earth, and take them to the moon.
Okay, I want to bring in another video here. This one is from Maeve in Nova Scotia. Is there evidence of life on the moon? And if not, do you think it will happen?
Hi, Jeremy. I am Maeve.
Oh.
I'm from Nova Scotia.
She's here.
And I'm in grade
She's
5.
here.
I have a question for you. Is there any evidence of life existing on the moon? If not, do you think it will ever happen?
I'm sorry, Maeve, I stepped on your question, but much better when Maeve asks it herself. A very good question, though.
Yeah, a great question. In fact, I think we all have this question. Where does life exist somewhere else, and where should we be looking for it, and will we find it? And to date, we have not found it. On the moon, we don't expect to find it because we think we understand enough history of the moon to think life probably does not exist there on its own. But we don't know for sure. Mars, we believe life probably did exist there at some point in history. We haven't found conclusive proof, but we've found some indicators that are starting to make us go, okay, we know there was water on Mars now, liquid water. We're pretty certain of that, and we're starting to see some signatures of maybe biology in some of the rock record. So we're excited to get humans there. There are frozen moons in our solar system that have liquid water underneath. Like imagine oceans under a moon of ice. And that's a very promising place to look for life. So we're very curious, and we want to keep exploring, and I hope you will help us.
And our viewers continue to be very curious. More questions. This one from TikTok, and Jim on TikTok asking, have you ever seen an unidentified flying object?
I have not. I used to be a fighter pilot for the Royal Canadian Air Force. I used to sleep in a hangar with an armed jet, for when you get scrambled, when the horn goes off, if there's some object that needs to be identified. I never ended up getting scrambled to intercept something that was never identified, nor did anyone ever show me a secret file that they are visiting us. But we all know there are objects in the sky that perplex people. There probably is an explanation for them, but that doesn't mean that there's no alien existence out there somewhere. I just don't think they're coming to Earth right now, but it'd be pretty neat if they were.
If they do, hopefully they come in peace. Okay,
Yes.
Let's go and stick with TikTok. Louis80 is asking, how cold is the far side?
Well, to kind of simplify it, if you're in shadow in space, we typically say about minus 250 degrees Celsius. If you're in sunlight, it's plus 250 degrees Celsius. Your spacecraft will warm up and you need to cool it off. But if you get to parts of the moon, and not necessarily the far side, but on the south pole, there's these deep craters that are, because of the sun angle, imagine a ball with a light over here. If you're on the bottom of the ball, the sun is coming at an angle. And so in those deep craters there, they have never seen sunlight. And they have gotten really cold, very close to absolute zero.
Wow.
And so there are these amazing freezers in the solar system. And we think there may be water ice trapped there that one day we might be able to use. And it's one of our reasons for wanting to go to the South Pole, because we think we're going to find water ice there.
Fascinating. And I can think of a lot of science fiction movies that have tapped into this plot line.
Yes.
So you get to see it firsthand. Okay, let's go to YouTube. James P. Tobin, 66 on YouTube, wants to know, are you confident with SpaceX and their developments to aid in the moon mission?
Oh, yeah. So people ask me a lot about commercial space. I just think commercialization of space is natural evolution. If you look at aviation, it's a very similar thing. Government was largely involved in the beginning, and now you have a very vibrant commercial airline industry, and you and I can get on a plane and fly anywhere in the world in less than a day. Imagine 100 years ago when aviation was just starting, people would have been like, there's no way you're ever going to have hundreds of people on one of these things flying around the planet. And I believe space is the same thing. And so I love the commercialization of space. I love the idea that other people can start to go. I think the more people that leave our planet and see it from the perspective of space is good for society. Now, there's always going to be ups and downs, and space is really hard. I have to tell you, I knew going to the moon was going to be a big challenge. It's a lot harder than I gave it credit even. And so I think people need to expect that it's not going to be all wins. We're going to have challenges along the way. The important part is that we just don't give up. We just keep going, and we will eventually persevere like humanity always does.
Okay, and our videos continue to come in here. This is from Wesley, who's 7 years old.
What's the silliest thing you have to practice on Earth before going to space?
Missed it.
What's the silliest thing you've had to practice
Okay,
before going to space?
I love the helmet. I was distracted by the helmet. That's great. What's the silliest thing we have to practice? Well, probably, just the human needs. Kids are always asking about the toilet in space and how does
and
that
adults,
work?
I will add.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important question because you do not want to get that wrong in space. You're in a tiny capsule. You got 3 of your friends there, and it's like you have to do a good job of that. So we have to practice how we're going to manage that, and just really simply. Space toilets work by replacing gravity with airflow. And so you have these specially designed toilets that have airflow pulling everything down away from your body. And then you have almost like a vacuum tube to urinate into. And that's how we manage it.
You need surgical precision, which is hopefully you can tap into that medical training that you got there. I'm going to take you to another video. This is from the dance students at Concepts Dance Studio.
Wow, look at that talent. That's great. They're awesome. Can you dance on the moon? Yeah, you could definitely dance on the moon. The moon is just with the lower gravity of the moon. If you could normally jump, maybe this high, and the moon, you could probably jump 3 or 4 times that height. And so the moon would be a great place to be a dancer, except for you have to wear a spacesuit because there's no air that we can breathe or air pressure on the moon.
And you have to make sure you're tethered because you'll just keep pirouetting into the universe.
Definitely if you did it off your spacecraft. The moon, luckily, has enough gravity that it will hold you there, not if you jump too hard.
Okay, and can you do the moonwalk on solid ground?
Can I do it? No. I probably need some help from those ladies.
Okay, let's move on to another email message from Ken Hildebrandt. He says, you say it's a cursory trip for future travel to Mars. Has there been any confirmation that Mars can sustain life?
We don't have confirmation that Mars can sustain life yet. We do have some clues that it may have, and that's one of the reasons we want to keep studying there. Kind of answer that fundamental question, are we alone in the universe?
We want to end this portion of our interview with you from this cute message from Zachary.
Mr. Jeremy, I wonder if you can fly like Buzz Lightyear. Can you?
Come on.
I wish I could. Don't we all wish we could fly like Buzz Lightyear? I cannot. No, I'm just like him.
Well, I'm sure people have already drawn the conclusions and the comparisons that you are very similar to Buzz Lightyear. Do you have a character who's your favorite?
Oh, from the movie? I guess we all enjoyed watching the journey of Woody on Toy Story. Obviously, my kids are a little older now, but I've seen that movie more than once, that's for sure.
Okay, well, we're going to have more time with you to ask more questions, and there's still time for you to send in your questions. Email us at ask@cbc.ca, or if you're watching TikTok or YouTube, throw your questions in the comments, and we'll ask Jeremy Hansen in just a few minutes. For now, though, I still have more questions for you. We've got about a minute to do a quick question,
okay.
Rapid fire. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Well, it has to be Star Wars, unfortunately.
What is on your mission playlist?
I've been putting some tracks from that have like lunar references in it, but I'm not sharing them yet.
Okay, Space Oddity?
No, not saying.
Okay. Did you watch Katy Perry go into space?
I watched some videos of it after. I didn't watch it live, but like I said, I love the fact that people are traveling to space. I think it's good for us.
Okay, well, we have much more questions for you, including what you're going to eat in space, how you're going to do it, your favorite snack, all of that and more coming up here on CBC Morning Live with Jeremy Hansen. Stay with us.
I'm Jeremy Hansen. I'm a mission specialist.
He's a Master of Science in Physics, an F-18 pilot, and a Canadian astronaut.
We are going back to the moon! Back to the moon!
Force ignition start.
Artemis II.
We are ready.
We are going to the moon for all humanity. We are Artemis.
And we're back with Jeremy Hansen answering your questions. Email them to cbc.ca. That's ask@cbc.ca. And if you're watching on TikTok or YouTube, throw them in the questions, throw your questions, that is, into the comments, and we'll get them to Jeremy, who's here in studio. We're so happy to see you here on solid ground before you blast off. Do you get goosebumps when you see that? Because I ask that every time I see it. Second time
I still do that.
this
The
morning.
rocket just it blows my mind, and it's fully stacked right now. And that historic building at Kennedy Space Center, the vertical assembly building, this enormous building, the rocket's in there. It's on the launch pad, and when I see it standing there, it blows the mind.
We have a lot of questions still coming in from viewers, so let's get right to them. This is from Mary Pumphrey. She emailed us to ask, was there any event in your childhood that inspired you to pursue becoming an astronaut?
Really interesting for me that I have this recollection of an image of humans on the moon in Encyclopedia A under Neil Armstrong. And I can see that page because I went back to it so many times in my childhood. We had it on our shelf at home. And I turned my treehouse into a spaceship. I started exploring space in my imagination, started checking out books on space from the library, and sort of fixated my mind on one day becoming a space explorer.
And here we are watching your dreams come true, not only for Canadians, in front of Canadians, the entire universe is watching you fulfill this dream, which is amazing. Okay, I want to take you to a video message. This is from Syed. Here's his question.
I guess I'd be curious how exciting that must be for him and what would be next. Does he want to go further? Does he kind of want to actually land on the moon? Things like that. It'd be really exciting to see what he wants to do next.
What's next? Well, I am pretty focused on what I'm doing right now, so it's hard to know what's next. But I do have a few things that I'm really passionate about. I'm super passionate about Canada continuing to set these goals that we have done over decades and use them to create our economy of the future, to make sure we're a big part of the future lunar economy. So I don't know what that really means for me, but I know there's a lot of work for us to do as Canadians. What's so obvious to me is, like, I've become the face of this mission, but this is really extraordinary. We're going to be the second country in the world to send a human into deep space. That's a big deal, and we earned it. I mean, we have this great partnership with NASA and the Americans. They left an allowed space for us to contribute in a meaningful way, but we also had to show up. And we've done it by being really innovative over decades. Just imagine, just really quickly, Canadarm1. Nobody had ever built space robotics in the world. And Canada stood up and said, we'll do that. That was a big risk. That was a gutsy and courageous decision that somebody took. And it's been an enormous success. Now we have Canadarm1 for the space shuttle, 2 for this International Space Station. We're building Canadarm3 for deep space to take on those challenges for the Lunar Gateway. And Canada has many of these niche areas. We've been using satellites to communicate. We're still doing that across our country. We're using satellites to understand and help people farm, et cetera. The list goes on and on. We're really clever at how we use space. And those are exportable solutions. So would I love to go to the surface of the moon eventually? I'd love to. But what's more important is that we're going to leverage space to really lift up our economy. And I think in this moment that we're in right now, that's very applicable.
Okay, I want to get to another email question. This is from Manon Damours asking, I would like to know your role in the aircraft.
Oh, so we have a commander. Reed's the commander, Victor's the pilot, Christina and I are mission specialists. So for what that means is for launch and landing, we're all strapped in our seats in our launch and entry suits, and Reed and Victor will be at the controls. But once we get to space, we just take the seats out. We don't need them anymore, and we just rotate through all of the jobs. So we all do the daily toilet maintenance, for example. We all manually fly the spacecraft. We all take imagery of the moon and observations, and we rotate through all the jobs for a couple reasons. One, we all want to be fully trained to make sure everybody can do the job if we have something off-nominal happen to one of us. And then 2, it also gives us 4 human perspectives of every task, because we're basically, it's a test mission. So we're proving this out for future crews, and we want everyone's brain working on how do we make this better for the future.
I want to ask you one more question from a viewer, Taylor Armstrong. What personal items can you bring to make yourself less homesick?
It's a short mission, only 10 days. I'm bringing some personal items, but I don't even know that I'll get to see them during the mission. You know, they'll be tucked away. We have a lot to do. But I did gift my wife, my 3 children, a moon pendant with our birthstones in them.
That's nice.
It says moon and back. And they wore them for a period of time, and then I took them back. And now they're already packed in the capsule, and they'll fly around the moon with me.
That's really nice. And I imagine you've had, as you mentioned, those heart-to-hearts with your family, and I would imagine some emotion there as you talk about what this means in the next few months and once you're there, even though it is a short trip.
Yeah.
I want to show you a video. This is from Jack from St. Margaret's Bay.
Hi, Jeremy. I'm Jack from St. Margaret's Bay Elementary in grade 5. My question is, what does it feel like when the spacecraft takes off?
Well, thanks, Jack. So no one has ever flown this rocket specifically, so we don't really know. However, it has the same solid rocket booster design as the space shuttle did, and we know those are a very powerful and rumbly rocket. And so I think for us, we'll be feeling the G-forces build up, and the vehicle will be shaking, and but it'll be exhilarating.
Okay. It was so great talking with you. I just want to share this snack with you because I know you can only have things that are not, hydrated. I've got some freeze-dried candy canes for you here to maybe take on your mission, maybe not. Cheers to you and this amazing mission. Canadians are so proud, and we'll be watching the skies. I hope to give you your first cavity in space.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jeremy Hansen. Again, good luck on what is such a historic mission. Thank you to the viewers who have been sending in the questions as well today. Jeremy Hansen is the lone Canadian astronaut on the Artemis II mission, the first lunar mission for a NASA crew in more than 50 years. And if all goes to plan, Hansen and 3 other astronauts from the U.S. will blast off next year. Thank you again, Jeremy. I'll leave this with you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for taking all of our questions and chatting with us this morning on CBC Morning Live.
Thanks to you, and thanks for Canada for putting us in this position.